So we'll start here. We'll go back. We'll start here from Ois Vav. Uh, so the Rebbe is explaining now. Before we said that's through the Vayizrע Yitzchak. When Yitzchak sowed, he was zoiche to get the Chamishim Vayimtzo Meyo She'orim. He found 100 times. Why is the cheshbon of 100? That's 50 and 50. 50 and 50 Shari Bina, the two Shari Bina. So you have, in the last explanation that the Rebbe explained, that 50 is the Bina of the Nefesh HaBahamis. Another 50 is the Bina of the Nefesh Alikis. When the Nefesh Alikis goes and does the work for the Nefesh HaBahamis, so then there is the blessing of the Meir She'orim, because you end up getting the 50 levels of Toihu and the 50 levels of Tikkun. The Nefesh Alikis is the 50 from Tikkun, that's Atzilus. The Nefesh Habahamis Bina is the 50 of Toyu. When you have the Nefesh Alikis working with the Nefesh Habahamis, you have both 50, the 50 of the Nefesh Alikis and the 50 of the Nefesh Habahamis. And that's why it's Vayimtza. So he says, we're going back. V'zehu ha'kesher v'ha'shaychus d'Vayimtza meyo she'orim d'Vayizrע Yitzchak. This is the connection. This is the tie in the connection of Vayimtza meyo she'orim to Vayizrע Yitzchak. That Yitzchak sowed, and once he sowed, he ended up getting the return, the meyo she'orim. What does Vayizrע Yitzchak means? As we said, that Zrias HaKoiches the Nefesh Alikis B'Nefesh HaBahamis. That's sowing the powers of the godly soul in the Nefesh HaBahamis. So that's more on an avoidic level, the Nefesh Alikis working with the Nefesh HaBahamis. Practically also, Val Derech Zeh Basiyas HaMitzvah. Similarly, also, when you do the mitzvahs, because doing the mitzvahs is also a way of vayizra, because what you're doing is you're working with the mitzvahs the way they are begashmis. So this work, this zriya, that brings about the meir shorim. Why? Ki hamida is the nefesh alikis sheshorsho b'tikon. The midas of the nefesh alikis, the godly soul, they are rooted in tikkun heim b'medida v'hagbola lefi haseichel. They are measured and they're limited according to the intellect, which means, as we said before, in Atzilus mainly is the intellect. So because mainly is the intellect, so even the midas that come here as a result from the midas of Atzilus are mainly inspired by the intellect. So you get the measured level based on the seichel. But the midas, the nefesh habahamis sheshorshom betoyu, but the midas of the nefesh habahamis which are rooted in toyu, they're not measured. Heim betoykev bilti mugmo. They are in a force not limited. So what happens is when the nefesh alikis works with the nefesh habahamis, Val yidei zriyas hamidas the nefesh alikis b'midas the nefesh habahamis, by sowing the midas of the nefesh alikis into the midas of habahamis, nimshachim meir she'orim, you end up getting 100 gates, which is shtei pa'amim chamishim. You get the 2 times 50. You have the midas, the tikkun, the measures of tikkun, which is the mugbal dike oir, which is based on the seichel, and also the midas, the toyu, and the measures of toyu. So you have the midas of tikkun and the midas of toyu, and that's why you got meir shorim. So why by yimtza meir shorim is because by Yizra Yitzchak. Yitzchak put the nefesh alikis and the nefesh habahamis, so you ended up getting meir shorim. You get the 50 of the nefesh alikis and the 50 of the nefesh habahamis. Why does it say Vayimtza? Vayimtza means when you say the language of Vayimtza, it's like a mitzvah that you found something which is uh, greater than what you put in the effort. It's like a mitzvah that you go, you're unexpected. When you work on something and you get what you worked on, that's not a mitzvah. That's not found something that you worked for, and you get it because it's a direct connection to what you put in the effort. But when you do vayimtza, when you find something, that means it comes totally beyond. So we can say the Masha Kosru Vayimtza Meya Shorim. This that it says Vayimtza that he found 100 gates. The Mitzia, usually when we say Mitzia, you found something. That's not in comparison to the avodah, that you get a lot more than you worked for. That means you got it in a way of a Mitzia. So the reason why it says Vayimtza, Ki Hamida is the Haneshama, because the midas of the neshama, we're talking about getting either from Atzilus or getting from Tohu. These are midas which are way beyond the midas that the person invests over here with Ave or Yiras Hashem. It's in a much higher level. So the return is in a way of a mitzvah. It's something like you find. The Masha Kosu Vayimtza Mei the mitzvah Ki Hamida is the Haneshama and Be'ein Arech L'Gabe Shosham. The midas of the soul are incomparable to the root, which is Hamidas the Tikkun, which is not comparable to the midas of Tikkun that you bring down. Umekoshken Hamidas the Nefesh Abahamis, for sure the midas of the Nefesh Abahamis, it's not comparable. Your midas over here, so it's a mitzvah that you're getting from the midas. Shamidas Shalom. What are the midas of Nefesh Abahamis? Hein b'tayvus olam hazeh. They are in the types of this world. Shehem be'ein arich legabe shorshim b'midas detoyu. So they are uncomparable relative to their root, the midas detoyu. So even the midas of the Nefesh Alikis, which wants good things, which wants Amav Yirav Hashem, is not good. I'm going to have to, like I said, I'll get a wire tomorrow. We shouldn't have this problem anymore. But we'll do the best we can now to continue. So these are all uncomparable. These are all uncomparable. Whether we talk about the midas of the Nefesh Elikis, it's also uncomparable to the higher level. And whether we talk about the midas of Nefesh Abahamis, for sure, it's not comparable to the midas of the Toyu, because the midas of the Nefesh Habahamis is in Taivus, so that's a totally distant from the root. And therefore, when we say to draw down the Meir Shorim, midas the tikkun or midas the toyu, in which we bring down through the zri of the nefesh elikis, nefesh abahamis, we draw down the Meir Shorim, which is the midas of tikkun and midas the toyu, and we bring down those midas. Aldeisha midas the nefesh elikis mevarerim. Hamidis the nefesh abahamis, through the midas of the nefesh elikis, sorting out the nefesh abahamis. The mitzvah shaloi lif'erech avodah. That's a mitzvah which is uncomparable to the avodah. That means vayimtza. It's vayimtza because this is a big chiddush. This is a big mitzvah because relative to what we have, this is incomparable. And now the Rebbe says, after Vayimtza Meir Shorim, the pasuk goes on and says, Vayivorchehu Hashem, Hashem blessed them. So what is it again? So first we have the Meir Shorim, then we have Vayimtza that he finds his Shloi Be'erech, and then we have Vayivorchehu Hashem blesses them. So the Rebbe says these are all three levels in which through the Zriya you get the three levels. Mamshich hakosu vayivorcheyu Hashem. The pasuk continues, Hashem blessed him. Shulamayla Yosef Gam Bivayimtza Me'Yeshorim. That's even higher than finding the Me'Yeshorim. How so? So he said, we'll understand this by introducing the Isa b'Medrash. The Medrash says, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to explain now, we're going to show that this level of Vayivarcheyu Hashem, that the Pasuk says, means with a level which is higher than Hishtalshlus, higher than the Vayimtza, a level of Pnimis HaKeser. So the Rebbe brings down the Hadlin, the Isa b'Medrash. It says in the Medrash that Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Maila Esa Adam L'Srara Ad Shaboidek U'Boichen Oisu B'Chulu. So the Eibishter does not elevate a person to a dominant position until he first inspects him and he checks him out and he tests him. He brings down there in the Medrash different things, and then it says, it's the same thing that Hashem, before Hashem made Abraham great, first he tested him. It says, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu Esen Nisyonis. The Eibishter, Avram, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu Esen Nisyonis. First, the Eibishter gave him 10 tests. And then, after able to stand by this test, and he stood by them. Then he benched him. As the pasuk says, Hashem beirach es Avraham bakoil. Hashem blessed him with bakoil. Bakoil, this level of bakoil that Hashem gave him, that's a level of dominance. That's a level of sroram. The Eibishter gave Avraham the level of bakoil after he went through the 10 nisyonos. The pasuk continues there, and v'chein Yitzchak nisohu the Medrash continues, v'chein Yitzchak nisohu b'mei Abimelech. Also, Yitzchak, he was tested in the Abimelech, v'omad b'nisyonei, and he was able to withstand the test. Then Hashem blessed him. After he stood by the test with Abimelech, then the Eibishter blessed him. What was the blessing of Yitzchak? That's the bracha that we're talking about over here. Shenemar, the pasuk says, "Viizr'a Yitzchak Ba'aretz Ahii." And then it says, "Vayivarcheyu Hashem." So you say that the Medrash says that the Vayivarcheyu Hashem is a similar thing to the Hashem Berich Savron Bakoil, and these are the levels that the Eibishter gives. Vayivarcheyu Hashem, the level of Serora after the Eibishter tests you. So what exactly is this Maila, the level of Vayivarcheyu Hashem? So the Tzemach Tzedek explains what it says, Hashem Berich Savron Bakoil. So that's the first, by Avram. What does it mean, the Bakoil? The Koil who Pnimius HaKeser. He says, Koil, with everything is Pnimius HaKeser. What is the bracha that Hashem gave to Avram after he inspected and tested him, and he was able to withstand it? He gave him the level of Koil, which is, he gave him Pnimius HaKeser. Why did the Eibishter have to give him that level afterwards? Because in that level, ein isaruso deletato maga'as l'sham. The arousal of below does not reach there, and therefore it does not really become. You can't get it because there is an area where the person Avram can reach by himself. Over there, he can't reach it through his avodah. After Avraham stood by the 10 nisyonos, Keneged Eses Sfiris, that corresponds to the 10 Sfiris. So over there, Shebehem Shayich, over there, it does apply Yisrus Azai Borcha Bakoil. So then the Eibishter blessed Abraham with Bakoil, which is the level of Pnimis HaKeser. So the way that Tzemach Tzedek explains the Medrash, That the first Abraham worked with the 10 nisyonis. The 10 nisyonis represent the 10 spheres, the 10 spheres of, and once he reached the 10 spheres, that's the level which the Sarusa de Latato can reach there. He reached there through his nisyonis. Then the Eibishter Bashem Berechas Avram Bakoil, he gave him the level of Bakoil, he gave him the level of Pnimis HaKeser, which is higher than the area that he can work on. So the Rebbe wants to say, just like the Tzemach Tzedek explains with regards to Avram, the same thing we could explain with regards to Yitzchak when it says in the Medrash, Vayivarchehu Hashem, that it's also a similar level. That after the Eibishter blessed him with the areas where Yitzchak did the avodah which he can reach, the Eibishter gave him a higher level, gave him the level of Pnimis HaKesed. Also, with regards to Vayechehu Hashem, Shenemar Yitzchak Achrei She'amad B'nisyon after Yitzchak stood by his nisoyin, that's the nisoyin of Abimelech. So as the Medrash says, Shabayivacheyu Hashem, Eibishter blessed him. What's the bracha? The bracha v'hamshocha mimokim she'en nisaruso deletato magas l'shom. The Eibishter gave him a bracha, drew down from such a level in which the saruso deletato cannot reach there. V'zohi ha'hisofa Dibarucheyu Hashem al vayimtzo meyashorim. And this is the addition of Vayivarcheyu Hashem over more than Vayimtzo meyashorim. More than finding this 100 times, because meyashorim comes through the Isarusa de Latato. Vayivarcheyu Hashem is Keser, which cannot come through Isarusa de Latato. That's an additional bracha. The Vayimtzo meyashorim, Vayimtzo 100, the meyashorim 100 times the meyashorim, the bina, who amshocha shal yidei Isarusa de Latato. It's amshocha not through Isarusa, is amshocha that is through Isarusa de Latato. But it would seem like we just said that it's Vayimtzo. It's shaloi be'erech. You get the Isarusa de Latato. You get it through the Surus Latata, but you get it in an Eifon, the Mitzia, which means it comes through Isarusa de Latata. But what the you mamshich on a higher level in a way of Mitzia. Elo, Shaham Shocha hi shaloi lifierecha Isarusa de Latata. It's not comparable to the Isarusa de Latato. The Hamshocha is in a way of a mitzia, but it's still a hamshocha that comes through avodah. But it says vayimtza because it's take in a way of a mitzia meisharim, but it's still that he found it. So he found it vayimtza. It's not like somebody just handed it to him. He found it. It was his finding, and his finding means that it's based on his Rusa de Latato. Yitzchak motza oisom al yidei Rusa de Latato shaloi, that he found them through his Rusa de Latato. So they came as a consequence of his work. He worked, and then he was given a gift beyond in a way of a mitzvah. But he is the one that found it because he is the one that initiated it. It was his Rusa de Latato. But and then there's a higher level. After this, the pasuk says, "Omer vayivarcheyu Hashem." The Eibishter blessed him. The blessing that the Eibishter gave him, that's a whole new level. That's not connected to Yisrusa de Latato. That's a bracha. V'hamshocha milmaylo mitzad atzma. That's a bracha, and what's drawn down from above on its own. Vayivarcheyu Hashem. That Hashem blessed him. That's not connected to his avodah. So the Rebbe explains similarly what the Tzemach Tzedek explains the first part of the Medrash by Avram, that the Eibishter gave him the Srora, gave him the extra Madrega, after he stood by the 10 Nisyones, and then he got the level of Vayivar, then he got the level of Keser. Hashem Berech Savram Bakoil is the Sfiras HaKeser, as the Tzemach Tzedek says. The Rebbe applies this also to Yitzchak, that when it says that the Yitzchak got the Srora, got after he stood by the test, that means that he got from a place, as by Avram, that the Sarusa, the Latata, doesn't reach there. And therefore, by the pasuk over here, even though it says Vayimtzo Meir She'orim, the first Meir She'orim that he worked on, the first thing in the pasuk, that's a Metzia, but it's a Metzia that comes through the Sarusa de Latato, through the arousal of Bob. But then later on, we have the higher level of Vayvarcheyu Hashem. Vayvarcheyu Hashem is a bracha v'hamshocha m'maylo mitzad atzmo. That comes from Hashem on his own, by Vayvarcheyu Hashem, that's not connected to his Asarusa Dilatat. Umamshich HaKosuv, and the pasuk continues, Vayigdal ha'ish, vayelech holoch v'godlu ad ki godlu me'oid. So it says the man became big, and he became very big. So it's 3 times it says here, Vayigdal, he became big, the man became big, and he kept on growing great until he was very great. 3 times great. What does the 3 times great represent? The 3 levels. The level of Vayizr'a, which is Isarusa de Latata in a normal way, and then you get the level of higher than that, which is the level of Mitzia, and then you have the level of Vayvarcheyu Hashem, which is Keser, which is Bechlal, comes Milamayla. Sha'omer Khan, the Loshen says Haloshen Godel Gimel Pam. It says 3 times God. V'yesh loymar, so we can say Shegimel Hagadulo is him Keneged Gimel Hoinyonim. That these 3 greatness correspond to the 3 matters. Vayizr'a, that's one Gedula. Vayimtzo, and he found, and Vayvarchei. Vayigdal ha'ish, the first part, Vayigdal ha'ish, he ha'hamshocha shelifi erechei seruso delitato. That's the hamshocha that comes relative and compared to this ruso delitato. Vayizr'a, first part of the pasuk, that the first part, he sowed. Sowed is a return for his sowing. That's his Isarusa Dilatato. That brought down the greatness, the first level of greatness. Shebechlolus. So to talk about in the terms of the Hamshocha, generally speaking, he Hamshochas Eir HaMemale. That's bringing down the light of Memale. Then you have Vayelech Holoch V'Godel. He kept on going in great. That's a hamshocha that's not compared to this ruso dilatato. That's vayimtzo. That's finding it. That's making it godel in a way that is beyond this ruso dilatato. Shebechlolus hamshochos eira sevev. That's the drawing down the light of sevev. So Vayizr'a brings Ur HaMemale, Holoch V'Godel brings the level of Sevev, and actually Loche Nemar, that's why it says Holoch V'Godel, keeps on grading, getting great. Holoch V'Godel. The Inyan HaHalicha Hi Ba'ir HaSevev Shalamaylo Mishtalshlus. The idea, the concept of going, growing in a high way, that's in the light which is higher than Mishtalshlus. And then you have Godel Me'ed. Godel Me'ed, he hamshocha mimokim she'ein nisaruso delatato magas l'shon. That's bringing down from a place which the saruso delatato cannot even reach there. Vayivarcheyu Hashem. And that's Hashem. So you see the Lashonis also Zriya represents the Serusa del Tato Ira Memale. Vayimtzo represents the level of Seva, which is beyond Hoylech v'Godlo. That's why it says Hoylech v'Godlo, because that represents the Ira Seva. And Godel Me'oid is very by Recheyu Hashem. That's already something which is beyond the Chlolus who Amshochos Ha'atzmos. Generally speaking, that is Amshochos Ha'atzmos. Lochein Nemar Godel Me'oid. That's why it says Godel Me'oid. The Amitis Inyan Habli Gvul, because Me'oid means that, because really when we talk about Bli Gvul, Atzmus is actually in the Atzmus. And therefore, when we talk about the Ma'oid, when we talk about the Hamshocha, which comes from a way which is Shalei Be'erech, then we come from a higher place, we get to the level of Atzmus. So basically, Vayigdal Ha'ish Holach V'Godol, Ad Ki Godol Me'oid, the three level Gedulah represents to Vayizr'a Eir HaMemalei, and Holach V'Godol, the Eir HaSevev. Ad Ki Godol Me'oid represents the Atzmus, and all these Lashonis over there, Vayizr'a represents the Serusa L'Lutate, the Sevev Holach V'Godol. And here it says Me'oid, the real level of Me'oid is Atzmus, because Amitis Inyan Habli Gvul Hu B'Ha'atzmus. Okay. Let's maybe we do hold on one second.